Okay, Robert, so we begin. For anybody else who happens to be tuning in, a couple weeks ago somebody said, hey, what's the rarest Seiko you ever worked on? And I said at that time that it's one of these. This is extraordinarily rare. This is an extremely rare variant of the 6002s. You just don't see these. You just don't see these. And this one appears to be basically new. A really, really, really unusual Japan-only variant with the very rarely seen JDM taper that these early ones came with. These bracelets, they're delicate. These are Stellux, and they have the hidden lugs underneath. And it's the thing with these Stellux hidden lug bracelets is that they tend to, well, one, they don't put up with a lot of abuse, but also the end links tend to get lost, which is really sad. So when you see one of these and you see it and it doesn't have any cutouts for the connectors, that's original. Amazing too, this has what appears to be an original Type 1 crystal. It's not the double domed or the Type 2, but it's flat inside and out. Whew, man, that's a beautiful watch. That is a rare, rare beast. Holy cow. Okay, and so back to Robert. Yes, and Robert, we have the other things going on here. There's 6139, 6105, August 1976. Do my best to clean up those hands. I need to confirm with you about what you want me to do with those. Would you stop wiggling? Look at this, 6105 8000, but it's got the rarer fish lens pip. Don't see that very often. That's the big difference too with the early ones and the later ones, not just the proof or the resist marking, but the slim cases got the high polish markers versus the matte of the later ones, even if they overlap in production time. 9.2. Won't be relumining anything on this, that's for sure. That's something. Okay, well, it's 3 watches, and that's going to be multiple days of work. Many multiple days. So sooner I get on it, the better. And let's get going. Okay, well, as the Joker said, here we go. That's a nice watch. It's a nice watch. It's amazing. You just don't see these slim case 6105s with cases this sharp that often. It's just a perfect amount of wear. Perfect. It's interesting that one in 69 has this has that fisheye bezel, fisheye pip. I mean, I associate those with early, but I don't know. It's really interesting. I don't know why Seiko did that, and only for a short time, and only for this model. I'll see if we can find that pink pip. If not, I'll recreate it. That's it. I guess let's go to it. Well, first surprise, not a big one, but this your rotating ring popped right off. This is your rotating ring spring. It's not supposed to look like that. Somebody's been jacking with it. It's supposed to sit actually inside the slot in this frame, and it's supposed to stay there. It's not supposed to hold to the inside of this. It's supposed to hold to the outside of that. So I'm going to need to rework that to make it correct. One nice thing is you've still got your nylon sort of spacer ring. Those are almost always gone. The only thing I worry about is that they have a tendency to shatter. So let's see what I just noticed. This, can you tell me if this watch is like entirely completely original? Because it's from 1969 and it has a Type 1 in it. So is this one of our crystals? Or is this how it came? I mean, it's pretty clean under here, so I have a feeling you might have replaced that, but I'm not sure. Okay, I have the hands and everything off here. Dial's in pretty good shape. It's got some marks and some dirt on it. The only thing I see that I'm going to have to really work on beyond cleaning is the applied logo here is bent. The O is bent up, but I will work on straightening that out. These things have 2 feet on them, a little one there and a little one there, so it rotated on its foot. Somebody bonked it at some point. I have not yet found the missing pink stoplight pip, but I have found them before inside the movements, so let's see. I'm going to flip it over now and open up the back, see what we see. Well, this watch is kind of curious because it has another early feature, not just the fisheye pip, but it's got the first style movement ring. These were phased out. I mean, they started with these in April of '68, and by June of '68 that was over. I only ever see these on really early ones. That's kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. Let's see what else we see. It's an A movement, which is correct. Oh, we got us some. Ooh, wow! Look at that wear on the mainspring, on the barrel. Wow! Look at that. Look at that wear. Holy crap! Yeah, that's wacky. Okay. Well, obviously we have a badly worn lower mainspring arbor port. Your winding weight is also not in the best condition. Yeah, that's a little floppy. I do have others of this. I have A bridges. I'll look at them. Somebody suggested a method for trying to make these firm up a little bit, but I haven't really had much success with that. I'll check the other bridges and see what I've got. A less expensive option would be to use like a 6106 or a 6119 bridge, but if you want the numbers to be all matching, it has to be a 6105. I'll see. As always, here's the fun part. We get to see what in the heck is going on inside that train. You can see that the ratchet wheel is nice and dirty from grease getting flung around. It certainly happens. So let's take this out of here. Come on. Aha! I knew it had more power. Come here. Okay, I will look closely at that in just a moment. I mean, it's not telling us anything we didn't know. Well, let's pull that bridge. And again, I like to use, in certain cases, I like to use the case itself as a movement holder because it's a very steady holder, and it makes sure that nothing goes funny, which is just what we want. We do not want it to go funny. Oh, would you stop it? Get this. I don't want to blind anybody. Okay. Be manually cleaning that. Yeah. Wow. Look at the wear from the ratchet tipping over because the arbor is moving so much. Crazy. Well, nothing I haven't seen before. So we're definitely going to need some for me to fiddle with the top one too. Just the way that it is. Come on. Get out of there. There we go. Yep, yippers. I'm going to need to clean that and fiddle around with it. Okay. Now I want to normally, oh yeah, look at your bridge, your winding, oscillating framework with oscillating ball bearings or whatever they call it. It's definitely loose. I'll see if I can tighten yours up. Wow, look at that wear. That's crazy. Okay, I want to get right on top of this because I'm still hoping to find no pip in the train. You can see the immense amount of wear on the edges of this barrel. There that is, and it was even, you can see it was even striking on the bottom. Kind of amazing that these things will run with everything dragging so much like that. But run they do. Okay, onward. Okay, so I have your, just looking at the case. So this is the nylon sort of spacer washer that goes underneath the rotating ring. We have a little bit of pitting in there where it sat. That's one of the problems, is the moisture just sits in there. So I'm gonna need to clean this out with basically dental tools, because what that allows me to do is make sure that I'm only working on the areas that are rusty. I'm also gonna have to do basically some neutralization with chemicals to clean that up. It's not major, I've seen worse. And it's not a sealing surface, it's just something you want to nip in the bud. Also have a little bit inside the aperture for the crown. I'm trying to think about how we can look at this so you can see it. All this crap. It might just be grot. That's what it is. There you go, there's some grot for you. Might be a little corrosion in there, but yikes, good fun. Okay, I really am very curious to see the dial date on this watch, because this has yet another early feature. The dial screws are fully enclosed, rather than this being sort of a machined out area that's fully open. They're buried in there. That's really early. That's really early. Again, like April '84, maybe June. I mean '84, 68. So I'm going to be very curious to see what the date on the dial is. Okay, here's the dial. I have not looked at the back. I have no idea what we're going to find. We're going to find out together. Here's your dial with your bent logo. Are you ready? I'm just trying to think. Look at that. May 1968. So the entire watch is much earlier than the case back. Let me just double check the case back for fun, because maybe I'm dyslexic. Well, I am dyslexic, but maybe I saw it backwards. February 1969. So this is a replacement back, or it's a replacement case, but everything else inside the movement is early. Everything else is early. All these early things. That's real interesting. There are no servicing marks inside the case back, none. So this is early watch with an excellent case. I wonder what the story with that is. Okay, let's get it going. Okay, we have one bad part, and I waited to see if I could find it before saying, hey, we have a bad part. This right here, there's supposed to be a pressed-in washer that sits on top of this that keeps this dude at bay. It looks like here's a junk movement that has the same part. It looks like that. So this big washer is missing from yours. I can't find it. It's not inside your movement. So I'm going to have to replace this entire part. I do have them, but just FYI. Okay, it's time for the last piece of the puzzle. I've got your stem apart here. Well, I've got the stem out of the crown, and you can see that circle of adhesive that's around the bottom, because Seiko glued these in. So now it's time to get that ring out of there. Okay, and there that is, all apart. You can, go away. So there's your original crown gasket. You can see it's supposed to be a rubber donut, and this is sort of a plastic tire thing. Sorry for all the noise. That's the internal spacer, goes in the bottom of the crown. There that is. And this is the cap there. We'll get this all cleaned up, and then when we rebuild it, it'll have a beautiful, brand new gasket. And it'll look like nothing ever happened. Okay, so here we are out of the cleaner. See your new lower mainspring arbor jewel in there. Pretty neat looking. You can see the brightness of the metal where all the finishing got pulled off because of the winding weight being loose. The rest of it looks pretty good. No, nothing major yet, but I'm only at the start. Let's see if I have enough time to hopefully get the train running before I run out of time today. As a result of the barrel flopping around a lot, we also got some pretty serious wear inside. This is the top of the mainspring barrel there. You got that big old, I mean, a little bit of wear is fine, it happens, but this is like, it's really seriously gouged out, and it's going to push the force is going to be going where it ought not to. So this is no good. I happen to have a replacement. We're going to use it. Starting to go back together now. You can see all the bright brass where the bits were going together. It is interesting. Someone definitely has been did some work in this. These divots right here, what those are is that's if you want to change the angle of the balance cock. You basically you put this down here and it punches up metal and makes it change how it sits. There's also, and I'm not sure if this is deliberate or an accident, there's divots around this. This is where the balance sits. And this lower divot, I can show you this. This lower divot is actually polished on the top from the balance going back and forth. I'm not sure why that's there, but I'm gonna get rid of it if it causes a problem. Back, the train is together now, so I'm just looking at the front of the movement. All the wheels checked out. I don't know, that's it. Just gonna look at the front, put in the Diashock setting up here for the balance. There's the new lower mainspring arbor jewel. I gotta assemble the rest of this stuff so I can test the cannon pinion and look at things like that. But first I wanna get it running. So I'm gonna drop that in there and drop the balance and see how the numbers are. Okay, well, it's running, so obviously, as I like to joke, I did something correct. I want to now, I'll let it run it for a sec. Right, it looks good to me so far. I'll check the numbers here in a sec. I need to build the front part of the movement, because right now it's only the train running in, but I just want to check it. For something that has this much wear, I want to make sure the power's flowing smoothly before I add any burdens to the train beyond just running. You can see we've got some adjustment issues, but the numbers are initially okay. We need to just see them come up. So I'm going to adjust out that stuff and we'll see how that goes. Okay, we got us a balance hairspring issue. I'm trying to think. You can't really see it. Maybe, oh, there you can. Yes, you can see it. Look at the hairspring. Look at that thing dancing around. It's absolutely not supposed to be doing that. So something's catching, and I got to look and see what's going on with that, because that ain't right. We also got a little bit of a hairspring wobble. I'm sorry, a balance wobble, which you can see. Yeah, look at that hairspring go. That ain't right. Okay. Well, it has been a long, long, crazy day. It has been more than, oh gosh, I'm almost at the end of a second day, still working on this 6105. The balance was it just took hours and hours and hours to suss out. And eventually I just gave up and I replaced your hairspring. I mean, I could have spent a lot more time and tried to straighten this. It's tweaked over at the stud. And also it's tweaked right at the collet, and it was doing all kinds of things like this. So I just replaced it. Replaced the hairspring, and it is running in now, and I'm getting good numbers. And boy, that took a lot to achieve. So now I'm working on your case. One thing I did want to report is that I was wrong. There is no corrosion on the case. It was just sponge. It was just dirty. Just dirty. All the sealing surfaces are perfect. Good to go. I also spent a fair amount of time working on your framework with ball bearing oscillating weight. Trying to get this to the point that it would shift a little less for me, and I'm going to test it and see. But if that doesn't work out, I have other ones good used right there. So I will see. I'm at the point now of getting this all buttoned together. I also spent a lot of time working on the dial, getting it cleaned up. Let me get that, turn that off. So it's not perfect, but it's certainly cleaner than it was. Sorry for the noise. Your crown is all rebuilt, brand new seal and everything inside. And I have straightened that logo. I don't want to work on that too much more, so it certainly is better looking. So I'm going to push ahead. Okay, well it is the end of the day. The kids have invaded my workspace, so you're going to hear them chattering in the back. There it is. It's amazing how much all the little things that I did to work on this. It's just bananas. All the things that had to be done to make it right again. Not a ton, but just all these little things. I think obviously the biggest challenge was the working on the hairspring right there.
Hello.
Willow, I'm trying to talk to the people. Hey now, not you either. So anyway, it's all done. Everything's as cleaned up as it can be. I've redone this pip right here. And I can go over more of the stuff that happened at that time, but oh, and I did, of course, I replaced the top of the date driving wheel. Okay, well, I think I've got to pull the plug. It's time to end the day. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, time for watch number 2. 6105. 8110. August 1968. Let's get this thing going. Only real question is about the loom on the hands, as far as I know. Oh boy, back is seated on nice and firmly. Hang on just one second for me. Nice case back. This is a nice watch, generally. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Every single time I press it, because everybody's home because of the coronavirus, so every single time I press the play button, there are a million children up here. Okay, so here's the back off. We can see that the original caseback seal is just as hard as plastic. We got a little bit of whale snot going on here. Not a lot, but some. That's not a big deal. I'll be able to clean that off, but it tells us the amount of water that got in here. It's trying to run. Let me get the winding bridge off there and we can see how much play that bridge actually has. Okay, got the winding bridge off and apart. Here's the underside of your weight. And you can see it's got a little bit of whale snot in there too. Again, this is pretty minor. I've seen some weights that are completely green, at which point you just can't reuse them because they're just going to be shedding material. This isn't bad. That isn't bad. I'll clean that stuff off and it'll be okay. That's when moisture sits on this, because this is a alloy and it has, the water sits on there and it pulls the copper out. And that's not what we need. Anyway, a little hazy. So I've got all the power off the mainspring, and you can see that we've got some shift course, I'm moving the whole movement. Even pushing down, you can see all the shifting that's going on. That's real typical. I mean, I don't even know why I bother to check anymore. They're always worn. Okay, onward and upward. A couple things. Your crown still locks well. It is interesting. You can actually see the pin in the case is right there. And you can see it's worn off a little bit. See, it's a little sort of shaved off on one side, but it still locks, which is good. Here's one potential place. Underneath the extremely stiff caseback seal, you have a little bit of corrosion. Some water was sneaking in that away. I don't think we got any real pitting on there. It's just something to note. Okay, I pulled the movement for fun. We're going to have to replace the dial ring here. This is one of the ones that they get sort of old. They're sort of a hard plastic, and they just start shattering. So I'm going to need to replace that because it doesn't work particularly well. I am going to consult with you, but my recommendation is to see what I can do to clean off this stuff and leave the patinate hands. See if I can get a little brighter. So I'm going to give that a whirl here in a little bit. I got to pull the hands and dial. Okay, so there's your movement. I have your dial out, which is right here. It's, gosh darn it, kids everywhere. They're going insane because of the quarantine. Anyway, well, we're not quarantined, just everybody has to stay inside. Anyway, unlike your last 6105, which had a mismatch between the inside and the outside, this one, again, is August 1976. This one is also 1976. It's 6 something. I can't really see what that says there, but that's a match, so that's good. Your hands, if your dial was perfect, I might suggest relooming, but your dial has some markings on it, and more as time goes by, it's not worth it. It's good to at least try to clean the loom up. I mean, darn it. Because like this, I mean, the metal surface, like on the hand there, on the tip, is actually pretty decent. And like the pip is still faintly pink. I would strongly suggest leaving it, unless you were able to get a hold of a perfect dial. Okay, I'm gonna get into the movement. Okay, pulling the train. Well, first you can see the all this old mainspring lubricant here, and also that the ratchet wheel was grinding into the underneath of the train. I'm sorry, the top of the train bridge. You can see the gruck there. Interestingly, all of your bridge screws, I've noticed this already, were loose. These two I've already unscrewed. This one I haven't touched. So I haven't unscrewed that at all. All this stuff was loose. That doesn't help. But let me get this. Yeah, it's the usual thing. Usual thing. Oh, would you stop wiggling? You know, you can see this is the lower mainspring arbor port. You can see how ovaled out it is. And there's some of the old lubricant. You can also see that it was the barrel was scraping on the main plate here. Again, this is real typical stuff. You can see that sort of the marking there on the bottom edge, the around there, and the old lubricant trying to work its way out from the barrel and the underside of the train bridge. Barrel and train bridge. Real typical stuff. No surprises. And here we are out of the cleaner. And you see there's your new lower mainspring arbor jewel. Everything else is nice and clean, just as it ought to be. And that's all good stuff, including your weight. Got those little things off of there. Should be fine. Moving ahead. Okay, getting closer. Just went through and checked the train and looked at the lash and everything else like that. And we're running. Clear running train. Looking okay. So I'm going to keep poking ahead and we'll see where we're going to get to. You might enjoy this. There's the inside of your crown, all cleaned out now. So I'm going to assemble that here. Once I get the movement running, I'll put the crown together and we'll keep moving forward. Okay, I have it running now. It's been running for about, I'd say about 45 minutes, something like that. it had a ton of bead error, and was way out of adjustment. So I just did a quick adjustment, and now I'm watching the numbers trickle in. So far, so good. So far, so good. One other thing to think about, sorry, is I am also working on, so the next thing to consider while that's running in, there's your dial. So these little dark marks, hang on. These little patina marks, those are there to stay. I mean, it's possible to lighten them by kind of digging them out a little bit, but unfortunately, I find that when I do that, sometimes it's very effective. Other times, I don't know. The thing is, once you start doing it, you kind of can't stop. So I don't know. I can maybe lighten these a bit. This obviously is your original handset with your original loom. The metal is in great condition. The metal is nice. I was able to get all that black corrosion off. The loom itself is, you know, it's yellowed, but original. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Would you get off of there? But it's original. The color difference between the two is nowhere near as extreme as how it looks in the in this video screen. I'm looking at it live while I'm talking to you, and it's not the same. This one, especially, if you look at the metal on the hand there, that came out really, really well. And that is your original loom, which I'm sure you can tell. These days, in the old days, I would have said, hey, let's reloom this. These days, I would recommend maybe not doing that because it's original. But that said, so I'm going to assemble it like this. That said, if you decide once I'm done that you want me to redo these hands, I can do it. The metal is good and it would look fine. It's just these are original, and my recommendation is to keep them as they are. Okay, but it's your watch. You can have me do whatever you would like. Okay, so long last, here we are. So the one thing to be aware of, the watch is running beautifully. It's running in the 250s right now. This is, you'll remember that was that area of staining that was before. This, it's got a little bit of pitting in here, nothing major, but it is here. I've got a brand new, obviously a brand new case back gasket, nice and round and springy. And I'm also gonna put some extra silicone on here. Just be aware that you have a little bit of pitting right in this area. So let's, actually I already greased the heck out of this seal, so I can just do this. Let me do this. It goes on there. Come on, let's go. Enough of this silliness. Okay, and I'll cinch that down. Whoops. Okay, so there that is. It's not really cinched down because I'm going to keep looking at it. So there's that. Again, the metal is beautiful, and the difference between the dial and the hands is not as extreme in person as it looks here. And when I do the final video in natural light, you should be able to see that too. So it's time for me to move on to the next watch. But that is not going to be right. Well, I have to prep and do some other stuff. But anyway, so 2 or 3. Okay. Okay, last but not least, this baby. Looks to me like the case might have been polished ever so slightly. It looks like it's cleaned up. These case lines aren't quite as sharp as they were originally, and the brushing is a little finer. It probably looked more like the bracelet surface rather than as shiny as this. But you know, that's perfectly fine. The most important thing with anything like this, anything this rare, is going to be the irreplaceable dial, hands, That's the stuff that matters. Nothing else does. It's always good to get this stuff cleaned out. Like this bracelet, it looks like it's clean, but it's actually not. You can see it, it's got filth inside there. And when I run this thing through my case ultrasonic, the fluid is going to be probably pretty gross. I mean, it appears clean, but it ain't. Here are those crazy Stellux end links that are just impossible to find. Boy, if you lose these, you're out of luck. Looking at the back, it's interesting that everything's so nice and clean, but the case back seal is ancient. It's like, it takes a long time for rubber to do this, like a long time. That's wild. I wonder what's going on. So they did this work, but then they made it look clean, but they didn't change even the case back seal? That's wild. Come here. Let me look at you. Yeah, this button seal is rock hard. That's original. I never expected that. I figured from the cleanliness of the case that they would have changed this stuff, but nope. That is just rock hard. Sorry for all the noise. Rock hard. Yeah, look at that. It just shattered. Willow's pissed off because one of her school friends came over, and of course everybody's supposed to be in quarantine, so we couldn't let them in, and it was this whole thing. Anyway, look at that. Rock hard plastic. Okay. Yeah, same thing. Crown. I mean, everything's clean, sparkling clean, but there's no... They cleaned everything, including the old seals. Look, it's so hard that the seal itself is a mirror finish. Weird. For fun, I powered this up. Interesting. Again, it's so clean, but look, it's barely running. Barely running. So, see if that makes things any better. No, not really. I mean, it runs, but it's very interesting. I can't wait to find out what's going on. Okay. So we've got the movement and the dial and the hands out, so I can get those taken apart as I should. You can see that the main sweep resets to just a couple, like I don't know, 0.2 of a second before top dead center. Typically I can't correct for something like that. I'll do my best, but it is what it is. If I can, I can. If I can't, I can't. We'll see. You have one tiny little thing right here that's the blue surface on the top. I believe that's missing. I will look at it more closely. If it is missing, there's nothing I can do about it. If that's something on top, then I'll do my best to clean it off. Yeah, you can see that angle right there. Okay, pull the hands. Okay, so here's your dial. Nice is that it's absolutely genuine. It's dated December 72. And your case back is November 72. Normally that goes the other way, where the dial is a month earlier or the same month as the case back, but this is a really rare model. So, you know, it is what it is. And I'm not worried about it in the slightest. Absolutely original. There's that little missing part right above the M in timer. I'll look at that more closely. No worries. Okay. Well, I was worried about this. Looking at the watch, I was like, gosh, it looks like it's almost NOS. And I was worried about whether or not to preemptively suggest doing the lower mainspring arbor port, because I thought that it might not be worn at all. And it is quite worn. So that takes the question out of that. Okay, getting through the backside of the train. Again, it's interesting. It's squeaky clean. I don't really see much trace of lubrication at all. There's a little bit of a haze of something here that might have been grease, I'm not sure. But like there's no debris, no dust, nothing dirty, no dirty anything. I mean, look at the underside of the barrel and train bridge. I mean, even around the mainspring, the arbor bushing, it's okay, which is very interesting. Okay, I will test that once we get it all cleaned up. I'll put it in my test rig. Sorry for all the noise. Everybody's at home. It's a beautiful day. You'd think they'd be outside, but nope. In my day, my mother would have just kicked me out. But of course, you can't do that right now because of quarantine and social distancing. So let's see. Yeah, so somebody's been in there. Look at that scratch. Look at that scratch there. Somebody has been in there. Let's open this up. Let's open that up. You know, well, it is. I thought it was partially open there for a second. Gosh, all the noise. Yeah, look at it. Look. Everything is clean, but there's no lubrication. Where's the S2? They must have used some other kind of, like, standard Swiss grease, but it doesn't look like there's any miles on it. Huh. Well, I'll pull that apart here in just a second. Look at how clean it is. Wow. But again, it barely ran. Okay, well, that's the big question. Do we have any lubrication? The answer is no. Bone dry. I can see a little circle of haze right there. You can see that right there. That used to be lubrication, but that's it. So we're gonna pull the rest of this thing apart. Yeah, no lubrication, nothing. Bone dry. Nothing here in the diafix, nothing here in the diashock. Dry as a bone. Okay, so now I'm gonna work on the lower mainspring arbor port. Okay, starting to go back together. Working on your, that's too bright, mainspring barrel here. That's out and clean, but it wasn't really dirty. There was a little bit of grease, of dirt, really, on the mainspring, but really that was it. The whole thing was dry, like dry. So getting this back together now. Got the stem, the winding pinion, and all that stuff. You can see there's your new lower mainspring arbor port. There's lots of little scratches in here. Like there's a scratch that runs across. Nothing major, but it's like, I think it's interesting. You have all these little scratches here and there. But overall, the movement looks fine. Your jewels are in good condition. And you got the new jewel in for the lower mainspring arbor. Here's one thing I always like to see. Being that this is the JDM 21 jewel version of this movement, this is your center wheel cock. That little jewel there, that is for the pinion to the minute counter wheel, and it's only jeweled in the JDM ones. That's a pretty neat little thingy. Someday I'll build one of these for myself, and I'll jewel everything just for fun. Someday. Okay, I have it all together. Unfortunately, not for you, but for me, unfortunately, my little stand, my little hooky thingy for having up my, holding my phone up, just died. So I don't have, unless I'm holding something with one hand, I can't do it. But I thought I'd show this. If you look at where the teeth of the barrel are intersecting with the center wheel, that's always nice to see. It's supposed to be just perfectly aligned with the top there. Those two gears, so that's a nice thing to see. So in any case, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to deal with not having my phone holder. I don't know. I'll have to deal with that. We'll see what happens. Okay, so here we are with my handheld. It's kind of like going back in time here, like the olden days. But we can see without much you can easily see that we're getting a lot better amplitude now that the thing is serviced, that it's clean and it's lubricated. Again, I didn't find any lubrication of any kind anywhere. I found sort of the ghost of lubrication, but not the real deal. I am sitting here because I'm watching the minute counter finger on the center chronograph wheel coming around into that little window to right there. We're going to be able, there it is. And it pushes. Click. Ooh, that's so nice. Definitely getting better amplitude. Definitely happier. I'll look at the numbers here in a second. Okay, so here we are. This just a couple seconds later. We got it. It's running now. You can see we've got a good amount of beat error and it's gaining. So what I'd like to do, and I don't know if this is possible, but I was actually thinking about this last night, was finding a way to prop this up so that, I mean, everything I do is so ad hoc. Hang on a sec. Well, let's see. Let's get get out of there. Let's see if I can do this so you can actually see. Ooh, look at that. Isn't that cool? Alrighty. That way you can see live while I am doing this. So we got, okay, we got some, we're gaining beat error. So first thing is, you just sort of, you kind of know where the arms are supposed to go, but let's just move it a little bit and see if it improves. We were at 2.9. Obviously, I think visually we're better. 2.4, so we know it's too fast, so I'm gonna make it a little slower, and I'm gonna adjust out some more of that beat error. Hey, look at that. Okay, so it normally doesn't drop in quite that quickly, but there we are. And again, it just started running. So this is gonna be, I'm gonna see what the numbers are like. I mean, this is gonna run in overnight and we're gonna see what's happening. But I mean, so far so good. And yeah, that's fine. I normally am not able to adjust that so quickly. This just dropped where it was supposed to be. In part for the beat error, that was kind of dumb luck. Anyway, but that's pretty neat, huh? You can see the adjustment going. And there we're running. Running in. Hey, that's nice and clean, isn't it? I think so. So it's been running for a grand total of maybe 10 minutes. We're gonna see how it goes. Cool, I'll keep doing this. I think that's a very neat idea. Okay. Okay, Robert, so here we are. This is sort of a weird sort of thing. I have the phone sitting on that stupid coconut cup thing that you see behind me in videos. I'm done. So, I guess, start from the beginning. This is, well, obviously, that's your 6105 8000. It's completely original, complete with the pip there. I had a few repairs and parts needed, usual stuff, lower mainspring arbor port, etc. But the rest of it was quite fine. The only thing, I did tighten up the winding bridge, but you'll notice it's loud. I mean, I've had louder, it's just something to be aware of. There's no problem with the bridge. I checked my other 6105A bridges, and they weren't necessarily that much better. I could install a 6106 bridge that would be much quieter, and you would of course get the other one back, but it wouldn't say 6105 on it. It would say 6106. So there it is. That one's, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful watch. Beautiful, beautiful watch. Okay, here's this one. 6105 8110. I'm trying to think because the light here is so funky. As I said over at the workbench, the contrast in color between the hands and the dial was just wrong in those other pictures. You can see here that the color actually is the overall color is, the tone is the same. And it's all original. So, you know, what are you going to do? If the dial was perfect, yeah. But, you know, if this were my watch, I would just leave it. Because you can say, hey, look, all the lume is original. I mean, even the pink stoplight hand is original. By the way, interestingly, this case I meant to tell you, it's interesting that it actually has the click ball over here, not over here. Doesn't really mean anything, but I just think it's interesting. Anyway, the metal of the hands came out very well. I'm super happy about that because you'll remember it had black scunge all over it, but I managed to get rid of that and look at the lume. I mean, yeah, it's got some markings on it, but I like it. I think it's neat. That's pretty good. And there were obviously some extra things with this, which I'll go over. And I have all the extra parts for you. Last, look at that thing. It's running beautifully now, just beautifully. Oh, by the way, in every case on all of these watches, I put the original crystals back into them because all the crystals were fine. So I didn't replace any crystals because there was no point. There it is. That's just lovely. What a lovely, lovely piece. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's why I wanted to show you this. I was able to reset this sweep so it was up at top dead center. And I'm very happy about that. I also tightened up your end links so they don't rattle. These Stellux hidden lug ones are always prone to rattling. Hang on. So there we go. So here, there you go. Get off of there. There you go. See, look, I was able to do it. That's why you manage expectations. I didn't know if I could, but I did it. Anyway, so I have all your other stuff is here. You've got 2 packets of parts there. The thicker packet is both 6105s. The thinner one is this one. But, I mean, besides the fact that it was dirty, not dirty, but I mean unlubricated and needing cleaning, and had a very badly worn lower mainspring arbor port, it was in great condition. That's really about it, man. Thank you so much for your patience. I really appreciate it. I'm just so grateful for people being willing to be flexible and understanding with their time. And I hope you're well and that everything goes well for you, especially during this strange time. Okay, that's about it. Thank you.